Let's get started with the July 12th, 2018 meeting. Roll call, please.
Chairman Berry.
Here.
Vice Chair LaTour. Commissioner Bynum.
Here.
Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Finney.
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Haynes.
Here.
Commissioner Leahy. Here. Commissioner May.
Here.
Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
You do have 7 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for the minutes for the May 31st meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the minutes from the May 31st meeting.
I second.
Good. We have a motion. It's been seconded to approve the minutes of the May 31st, 2018 meeting. Those approve, raise your hand. Those who do not, minutes have been approved. Staff, would you like to do the presentation of the consent agenda, please?
Yes, and we have a card on item A.
That's correct.
Consent agenda consists of 2 items. First is item B. Staff recommends for placement on consent approval. Item B, File A 332, Canis Road, Deltic Potlatch Annexation. A request to add some 180 acres plus or minus along the north side of Canis Road, west of Iron Horse Road, generally in the 19600 through 21200 block of Canis Road, to the City of Little Rock. Staff recommends approval of the annexation. Item 1, File Z 9336, Mercy Ministries, conditional use permit located at 1900 Nichols Road. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in sections 4, 5, and 6 of the agenda staff report. That concludes the consent agenda.
I have to recuse on the consent agenda since I have an item on there.
Thank you, Commissioner Leahy. That means we still have 6. So that's a quorum enough to vote. Is that correct? To hear a motion for the consent agenda as read by staff.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the consent agenda with all staff conditions, recommendations, and comments.
Oh, thank you. Do I hear a second for that? Okay, we have a motion for this consent agenda has been seconded. Those approve, raise your hand. Those who do not, consent agenda has passed. So we have one item that's going to be on the regular agenda, and that will be the River Market District overlay amendment. So staff will lead that discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Brian Minyard. I'm with the Planning and Development Department. I'm the staff person for the River Market Design Review Committee. On a ever so often regular basis, we have a work item at the DRC to look at the ordinance and see if things need to be changed to reflect current market conditions. And so we started this process back in 2006 to look at a few things, and we keep track as staff, and projecting signs and sandwich board signs were a big ticket item about things that they thought could be different. And so we looked at that, and we also looked at the word prohibited in the ordinance. When the word prohibited is in the ordinance, if we change that slightly, what it does, it enables the applicant to go to the Board of Adjustment with a 1 month turnaround instead of going to the Planning Commission and Board of Directors to change the ordinance for a 3 or 4 month turnaround. So that is a lot more user-friendly, as they say. Another item that they looked at was the proposed change of prohibition on internally lit signs. And what they've done, they've eased that a little bit so that when you see the signs that are in the shapes of letters or logos or special signs that are internally lit, the bulb is inside of it, they're saying that that is appropriate for the district now, where before they said it wasn't appropriate whatsoever. So that's easing it up just a little bit. The projecting signs, they looked at that and proposed 4 different changes, mounting them slightly higher on the building than they could before. The distance from the building increased a foot, and then the frequency of signs got a little bit larger. But then if you're sharing a sign with someone on the second floor, you would have to have the same mounting bracket on the wall for the projecting sign. So you'd actually have like two signs on one mounting bracket. The sandwich board provisions was basically totally rewritten, adding a definition, adding the clarifying of the intent of why they think sandwich boards are important in that district. The fifth thing they did was to modify the language for the tree planting strip backfill to be engineered soil so that we don't have as much buckling and caving of the pavers that we have there now. We were ready to come to the Planning Commission 6 weeks ago, but then we added the item about the street trees, and so that's why we're here tonight instead of in the past. In the May and June regularly scheduled meetings of the River Market Design Review Committee, Parks and Recreation came to the district, came to the committee and said that they need to look at the street trees for the maple trees. Parks came to both meetings, both the May and the June meeting. We had citizens present at both of them. Parks recommended 4 different types of street trees for the committee to look at, to approve. They came back with a matrix of pros and cons, size, color, shape, all of that to look at. And with the input, discussion between the commissioners, et cetera, the committee did approve to go with a ginkgo tree instead of the autumn blaze maple trees that we have. If you take a walk down the street and look, you'll see that a lot of the trees are unhealthy. They're misshapen now because of pruning out the dead trees. There are holes where they haven't been replaced, and the bark just seems to explode off of the side of the tree, which is obviously not a good thing. So this ordinance, the River Market DOD, actually specifies this tree is on this street, that tree's on that street. It's not unusual. We have other design overlay districts that talk about different trees in different areas, so that's why we're here looking at that. We did mailings to all of the property owners and all of the business owners that we could find with the business license. Mailed that 2 different times to them to notify them of the meeting at the Design Review Committee and the meeting tonight here at the Planning Commission. I have not received any comments myself as to any of the changes that are proposed. So all of these changes went through the Design Review Committee with multiple times talking about it and discussing and going back and forth. So they are certainly in support of the changes.
Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and have one card. Who wishes to speak in opposition? Joe Melton, would you like to approach the lectern and state your concerns?
Thank you for hearing me. My family's on property in the River Market in the 300 block. If you're familiar with where Nexus Coffee, Barn Mercantile, and Ernie Biggs are located, those have been in our family for years. So we go way back to being part of helping organize the design, the overlay district. And then I was on the committee to review it some years ago as well. I actually thought there'd be more people here and I wouldn't be here all by myself. I do know that at least I know of one letter that was sent to Mr. Berry. I'm here because it's going to cause quite a stir, I think, in the city when people see that we're removing nice full-grown trees. The block where our business is, the 300 block, the trees really look healthy. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to go look at them or not. So I had asked at the DRC committee meeting where I went if we might save the trees in that block. And because then there's a street in between, and then start replacing them in the other. I'm not one to go hug these trees if they're diseased. It appears to me, though, if they were trimmed back and the sprinkler systems, which I don't know where all the sprinklers are broken, but they have been for some time, so that might have contributed to the trees not doing well. I don't know. But since it will cause, we'll all hear about it because a lot of people may have seen a little something in the paper as I did. But I'm not saying I'm totally opposed to doing this. I think we better think about this. The DRC committee was asked if they would endorse this. They chose a tree. They did not say we endorse replacing all the trees because I was at the meeting. They said we can choose another type tree, but it's not our, it's not our purview to be doing this. So I just want to be sure you're all aware. If you go into the River Market, it looks really wonderful and shady now. Our tenants love the trees, and they're about 8 inches wide or so now. We're going to be replacing with trees 10 to 12 feet tall, I'm told. So I just want you to be aware of what you're voting on, and you may be already. I apologize if you are, but that's where I'm coming from. I'm concerned how the reaction's going to be to this when we totally take out all those trees. Is it possible to just replace the ones that really are diseased? But even better yet, would it be possible to just trim what we have there? And that's all I really have to say. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your comments with us. Staff, anyone, Brian or anyone from Parks want to get up and speak, I would like to address her concerns and maybe some questions there might be about why the species change and what will be the phasing of the tree replacements.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
My name is John Eckert. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. I have Robbie Hudson's our arborist and Ernie Moix is our horticulturist. Initially, we've got a lot of feedback from people in the area and other management that the trees we need to take a look at the trees and the current condition. And after doing that, we went through and evaluated all of the current condition of the existing trees, the trees that have died and have not been replaced. And I think, Darnie, did you bring that report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you can go ahead and explain that.
Okay. Actually, varies a little bit because we've looked at it at different times, but there's 15 trees shown to be totally missing. There's 33 trees that are poor or in need of replacing, and that's a total of 48 trees out of 85 trees. This includes some in the plazas that our original estimate of 50 trees was from President Clinton from the La Harpe all the way to the I-30 bridge, and that's at 59 trees. So there's a little, if we replace in the St. Vincent's Plaza, for instance, there's 8 trees. They all need to be replaced.
And what we found with the autumn blaze maple is it's just not a suitable tree for the urban environment. I'm not an expert on trees, these guys are, but if you can speak to what they're experiencing, why they're failing, and the experience with the ginkgo, which was the approved tree by the committee. Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, the problem we have with the autumn blaze maple, and we've been having this for probably about 12 years now, every winter we have to go in and wrap the trunks of the tree with a tree protectant. The bark on the autumn blaze maple is so thin, if you'll go down and look on the southwest side of the tree, that's where the trunk's damaged at, on almost all of the trees down there. And what that is in the wintertime, when the sap is frozen, the southwest sun hits the asphalt and the concrete, and it thaws, and then it freezes again at night. Just like a pipe, it expands and cracks, and that's what we're having. That's why the trees, they don't have a disease, they have structural damage. So now the next time we get a strong wind coming down Clinton Avenue, we're liable to have more trees on the road like we have in the past. So going with a ginkgo tree, you're going to have a tree that has a stronger trunk and a tree that won't have the structural damage from the sun in the wintertime.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Staff?
John, if you would speak a little bit, or your staff, about how we're going to replace those, that it's going to be, pull one out, put one in its place. So kind of talk about how we're going to go replacing that. I think that's also one of their concerns.
The goal would be to replace overnight. We wouldn't be cutting and leaving trunks for an extended period of time. It would be a quick process, coming in and replacing or cutting the trees, grinding the stumps down, and then replacing shortly thereafter. So it'll be done overnight. There won't be any traffic congestion due to this work, and should be minimal invasive to the district as well.
Will you be replacing only the unhealthy looking ones at first, or are you going to replace all 59 at once with ginkgo?
All 59 at once.
All 59
That's
at
gonna be
once.
cost effective, and also from a aesthetic point of view, you're gonna have all the same size and kind of trees in there. You're not gonna have the red maples that are quite a bit taller than the new trees will be.
How tall are the ginkgo saplings going to
Okay,
be?
well, the problem with the height is you can only get a 3-inch caliper tree to go in that 4 foot by 4 foot area in the concrete. So a 3-inch caliber tree is listed somewhere around 10 to 12 feet tall as in the American Association of Nurserymen standards.
So it will be an adjustment for a year or two, but after that point, it will be a consistent look aesthetically, and we will have a tree that's going to be sustainable in that urban environment.
Any thoughts?
I'm sorry, just clarification. Did you said the initial total was at 85 total trees, but only 59 are affected? Is that?
There's 85 autumn blaze maples down there in the district right now. Excuse me. Some of them go into the Riverfront Park area in what we call the plazas. And so if the bid that we put out and got a estimate on was from La Hart Boulevard straight down President Clinton to the Interstate 30 bridge overpass. And that was the 59 trees.
Okay.
Brian, did this change does include the plazas?
No, we're not changing.
No, so it'll be just the Clinton corridor.
Just the Clinton corridor. Yeah, I guess, not to take up too much time, I guess the concern I would think publicly would be understanding there's economic logic and a great arbor science behind replacing out the maples over a period of time. I guess doing 59 at once, the optics, I think, would concern. You're right, it would be an adjustment. It gives me pause if in an ideal world you could replace those that are unhealthy and phase the other ones in as they become unhealthy in terms of replacement. And I don't know if you can speak to that or not.
What'll happen is you'll get different varying heights. Now, if you're talking maybe within a year, that's not going to be a problem. But if you're talking about waiting until some of the red maples start going downhill and getting poor condition, that may be 4 to 5 years, maybe even a little longer on some of them. So you're going to come back and replace a new ginkgo with a ginkgo that's been out there for 5 to 6 years. And that is going to be a difference in height. Yes, sir.
I just want to avoid the optics of what happened on Main Street when that happened. So just concerned for the city, that's all. Any more questions?
So my question is, aesthetically, it's going to look better if they're all replaced at one time and not phased in, is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would want to mention, though, the ginkgo is quite beautiful in the fall. I don't know if you've seen them before, but it's going to be a great optic in the fall when you have all these trees replaced.
They are a slow-growing tree. I've got one in my yard.
They are, and that's a good thing for the urban environment.
Yes, I know. Okay.
Commission also wanted to clarify the replacement. And John did mention and emphasize that when they take down a tree, they replace a tree. I think one of the questions that was brought up, and you referenced it, Chairman Berry, was the Main Street. Now, in that scenario, they cut down all the trees and then it set for a while. And that's where he was trying to explain that they're not going to set for a while. Whenever they do cut one and grind one, a tree will go in its place right then. So it's different. It's not going to sit for weeks and wait for a replacement.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of item A with all staff comments, conditions, and recommendations.
Do we hear a second? Second. Okay. We have a motion for this application for the River Market Street amendments as presented with staff recommendations, and it's been seconded. All those for that application, raise your hand. And those opposed? Motion passes. There being no other business, we are open for citizen communications. This does, by the way, this goes to the board next, right? So there's more opportunity to speak to the issue. Anyone else for the good of the order, the spirit of the Corps, that we? Oh yeah, for citizen communications, yes, it's all free.
John is a friend, and I trust these gentlemen, but I did want to be sure you were aware of what, there probably will be repercussions from the public. So I want to be as positive as I can if this is what we're doing, but I wanted you to be aware there's going to be real concern when all those trees start coming down.
Optics are everything.
Optics are everything. So I hope we can all get on the same page.
Well,
I don't plan to come before the city council, so but I did have a concern about the trees coming down, and our tenants do.
Yes.
So I appreciate that you heard me, and I am hoping, and I don't know if this comes before you, but I have a dream that if the ginkgos are coming, and it sounds they are, can we consider getting electricity and light up that area down there, because we really need to, if we take something out, can we offer the public something back? I'm just throwing that out there.
Well noted. Thank you very much for that suggestion. Okay. Being no further business, we are adjourned.